Hi everyone and welcome back to Supply Chain 360. My name is Ralph Leindecker and I'm the host of today's show. If you are new here, this is where we explore how to build pharma supply chains that stay viable in a world that doesn't stop changing. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to follow the show in your podcast app so you don't miss future episodes. In the last two episodes, we talked about scenarios, using them as a flight simulator for your supply chain, and about signals, building a simple early warning system and risk radar that tells you when a scenario might be starting to unfold. Today, I want to talk about the missing piece in many organizations. You see the signal, you know what it might mean, but nothing really happens. So this episode is about moving from signals to action, using response playbooks, basically lean, scenario-specific SOPs, and clear decision rights so your organization can actually respond when disruption shows up. Let's start with a simple observation. Most companies do not fail because they didn't see a disruption coming. They fail because they couldn't agree what to do, or they reacted too slowly and too inconsistently. Someone in planning noticed lead times creeping up. Someone in quality saw more deviations. Someone in logistics felt a lane getting shaky. But there was no clear script that said, if we see this, and this, and this, here's what we do, and here's who decides. That's where response playbooks come in. When I say response playbook, I mean something very pharma compatible. A short, scenario-specific SOP or response plan that says, if this trigger is hit, these are the options we consider. And these are the people who are allowed to pull the trigger. It's still an SOP in spirit, it's just focused, actionable, and easy to use. Let's make that concrete. Take the supplier example from the previous episode. Your risk radar shows lead times have increased by more than 20% for 3 months in a row. You've had several minor quality issues from the same side, and their responsiveness is clearly deteriorating. That's a signal. What does a response SOP look like? A basic version might say, if a critical supplier is flagged at risk for more than 1 month, then we do 3 things in parallel. First, increase safety stock for the affected SKUs by X weeks, owner, supply chain. Second, accelerate technical and quality approval of the second source, owners, quality, and tech ops. Third, schedule a direct escalation call with the supplier's leadership, owner, procurement. And you also define decision rights. Up to a certain cost impact or inventory level, the regional supply chain lead can decide alone. Above that threshold, the global lead or a small crisis cell needs to sign off, but within a fixed time window, not whenever we get to it. The point is, when the trigger hits, you don't start a philosophical debate from zero. You execute a pre-agreed mini-SOP. Now let's take a look at a logistics example. Say your risk radar shows that on-time performance on a key cold chain lane has dropped below your threshold for 4 weeks, and you are seeing more temperature excursions than usual. Again, the response SOP might say, if on-time performance stays below X%, and we see more than Y excursions, then the lane owner brings 3 options to the table within 48 hours. Option A, shift the percentage of volume to an alternate carrier. Option B, adjust departure times and buffers while we stabilize the lane. And option C, reroute high-risk products through a secondary hub. Decision rights could be the logistics lead can move up to, say, 30% of volume without escalation. Anything beyond that needs alignment with supply chain and finance because of cost and service implications. Again, the important part is not perfection, it's clarity. Everyone knows when this line is crossed, we move. So how do you build these response playbooks without turning it into a giant bureaucratic SOP project? A simple approach is this. First, start from your top scenarios, maybe 3 to 5 that really matter. Second, for each scenario, look at the signals and triggers you've already defined. Third, for each key trigger, ask 3 questions. What are our realistic options? Who owns each option? And who has the authority to decide and how fast? You don't need a 40-page controlled document for each one. Even a 1-page mini-SOP per scenario is a great start, and you can always formalize more later if needed. And then, this is crucial, you rehearse. Take 60 minutes in a cross-functional workshop and run through a scenario. Okay, our risk radar just flashed red on this supplier. What do we do first? Who calls whom? What information do we need? Where do we log the decision? The first time you do this, it will feel messy. That's okay. That's exactly where you discover the gaps. Decision rights that are unclear, data that isn't easy available, or bottlenecks where everything depends on one person. It's much better to discover those things in a controlled simulation than in the middle of a real deviation or shortage. This is also a great example where AI could help. When a trigger is hit, an AI assistant could automatically pull together the relevant data, current inventory, open orders, affected SKUs, lane performance, and present a short briefing to the decision maker. Or it could generate a first draft of impact scenarios. If we do nothing, here's what happens. If we activate option A or B, here's the likely effect on service levels and cost. You still make the call, but you don't start from an empty slide. You start from a structured view of the situation. That keeps the humans focused on judgment, trade-offs, and communication, not on chasing data. There's one more element we shouldn't forget: communication. A good response SOP doesn't just say what to do and who decides. It also says who needs to be informed and how. Which markets or affiliates need a heads up if you shift volume, which quality or regulatory colleagues must be in the loop if you change a route or a pack side, who talks to senior leadership, and how often if the situation escalates. The goal is not to micromanage every email, but to avoid the 2 extremes we see so often: total radio silence or total chaos. So here's the takeaway for today. Scenarios help you imagine different futures. Signals help you see which future is starting to unfold. Response playbooks, your lean scenario-specific SOPs, and clear decision rights are what allow you to act quickly and coherently. You don't need a perfect library of controlled documents to start. Pick a handful of high-impact scenarios, define a few clear triggers, sketch your options and owners, and make sure at least one person is truly empowered to pull the lever when the line is crossed. If you can do that, and if you rehearse it a couple of times a year, your supply chain moves from being reactive and surprised to being prepared and coordinated. And in a Barney world, where brittleness and nonlinearity are the rule, that coordination is often the difference between a contained issue and a real crisis. If this episode sparked some ideas, feel free to share it with someone in your organization who works in planning, logistics, or quality. And if you'd like to hear more conversations like this, hit follow in your podcast app and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes. Thanks for listening to Supply Chain 360. Until next time, stay curious, stay prepared, and keep turning signals into action.